Good morning.
Good morning at your end, good afternoon at my end, but it's good to finally meet Sandy's classmate. So, and then you have a very unique name, Jollibee. Kulang nga na lang L. And then, ano ba, wrong spelling? E. Kulang ng isang E. I'm just curious if, yeah, but for people who don't know what Jollibee is, it's okay. For people who are from the Philippines and even those who are abroad but who know about Jollibee, oo nga. Every time they talk to you, they will be reminded of Chicken Joy.
Yes, and my supervisor is very fond of my name because he used to work for 7 years. And he's like, just like the fast food.
Okay. Yeah. But anyway, it's good to kasi yeah, I think the conversation with both of you, and I'm glad Sandy suggested to also invite Jollibee, no? We have a perspective of two young people, the female and the male perspective. All right, so let's officially, yeah. Huwag kang ganyan, which means that I would be very old. So you better just accept that you're young because that's if you will disagree with me, that would make me really, really old. I have a lot of white hairs. Okay, so all right, let's officially start. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second conversation, and I'm very happy to welcome Sandy, Jan, and Jollibee. Both are students, graduate students in Germany, specifically at the University of Bonn. Is that the correct way to pronounce your university? So
yeah,
I'm
Bonn.
so happy. Bonn. I'm so happy that they said yes. So it's going to be a very different discussion today because I'm very interested to find out their life as Filipino students in Germany. And I'm sure we would learn a lot from them. They are young people, so therefore they have a long way to go. And I'm sure they're very rich in ideas. How do we get officially started? Let me see. So I'll officially introduce briefly, but only Sandy Jan. Okay. So Sandy is a friend. He was a former thesis advisee when he was an undergrad. Of course, he's an alumnus of Central Mindanao University, Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, major in Crop Science with plant breeding as option. Ano pa nga ba, Sandy? He graduated cum laude. He graduated, sorry, I have to boast for you. I feel like your mom. So, he graduated cum laude, although I believe he could have earned higher honors. But he was not that ambitious, although accolades actually follow him. He was ranked number 4 in the 2014 licensure exam for agriculture. Tama ba? And he has a lot of recognitions, but I think I will allow him to just share that later on. And I can briefly introduce the lady with us, the young lady with us. She's not McDonald's, definitely. She's Jolibe Llido, and she is a classmate of Sandy. So I think they have the same program, but they will tell you more about it. So ganito na lang. Ladies first, Jollibee, because I cannot say a lot of things about you, but I know you come from Mindanao State University. Am I correct? IIT?
No, main campus.
Oh, main campus. Very good. Marawi City then. Okay, so ladies first. Please introduce yourself.
Good morning from Germany and good afternoon in Philippines. I am Jolibe Llido. I graduated at Mindanao State University main campus. With under the program of Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, major in Farming System. Just graduated, and after that, took Leia and then work at Mindanao State University-Naawan campus for 3 years after taking my graduate program here in Bonn. So That's it.
Oh, so I never knew that there's a farming systems major in that's good to know. What else to say? Okay, so that's fine. Sige, Sandy, let's have what else can you add to what I just said in the introduction for you?
I think you've said a lot already. But yeah, after graduation, yeah, I worked for PhilRice as a science research assistant. And then after realizing that only doing research is not really meaningful for me, so I worked for an NGO called Series, which I was exposed to different aspects, especially socio-political aspect of plant genetic resources conservation and management, not only in the Philippines, but also in different countries in ASEAN, specifically Vietnam, Laos, and Myanmar. So yeah, it actually makes me realize that doing research alone is not enough for me. So I need to look at different lenses altogether also.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for that. Maybe not everybody is familiar what is Series. So can you elaborate what Series is? And definitely from what you said, a Series exposed you to an international agenda, to an international work system. So does Series, this is my second question for you. So does Series also do research and extension? Because you said working with PhilRice was not enough. So, so what does really Series do? What is Series and what does Series do?
Series is short for Southeast Asia Regional Initiatives for Community Empowerment. So basically, their main work is community development through empowering farmers to develop their own crop varieties, which is also called as a participatory approach. So basically participatory plant breeding and participatory varietal selection. Not the same as the participatory approach that we're used to in the Philippines, where farmers are just go to the research institute field, and then they just handed some paper, and then they will just select which variety in the field looks good to them physically or morphologically. But what the participatory approach that Series are trying to promote is from the beginning decision, like they will not assume what the farmer wants in terms of crop variety, in terms of traits, but they will go to the farmers and ask farmers, what are your problems? This is their problems, and what do you want to achieve with this problem? What do you want? So farmers will then try to, I think, list the traits they want in a rice variety or whatever crop they want to prioritize. So, and then they will also decide as to what parent materials they need to use, because sometimes one of the reasons why a modern variety is not accepted is that farmers don't know these varieties very well, and farmers will adopt most of the time a new variety if they know that this variety is coming from this parent, and they actually see that this variety is also similar to the parents or to the variety that they're known for. So it's like from the beginning, from the conception of from the first step of the plant breeding, which is planning, conception, what kind of traits, what they want to achieve in terms of yield or physical attributes, and kinds of parent materials to be used for breeding. And then also the crossing, making the actual cross, and managing the F1 nurseries, the F2, and then selecting. The farmers will do most of the work, but Series and their partner institutions, which is in-country institutions, will only facilitate and validate whether and complement their knowledge with the actual scientific and so it's farmers working together with the scientists and Series, which is the the extension, basically the development workers. So Series provides the technical knowledge, know-how, and then the partner institution within the country provides the scientific inputs also. So to help farmers select, develop a crop variety that they want to develop or breed or something like that.
would be more relevant for them. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sandy. I think we will go back to what you just shared about, because I think what you just said is a minefield of concerns and issues, especially in the crop improvement arena. So thank you for that. I'm very curious about what was the kind of work that Jollibee was doing with MSU Naawan. So you were there for about 3 years, because yeah. So can you elaborate a little bit, Jollibee? What kind of work did you do in MSU Naawan? Because you had, I don't know. I know MSU Naawan. I've been there a few times, and it's near the seashore. So you said your major way back in your undergrad was, farming systems. So yeah. So can you elaborate a little bit about the kind of work? Because Sandy was already explaining to us his background in terms of work experience, field rice and then sea rice. And then I'm just interested your work background before you left for Germany.
It's a teaching job. So basically, it's a classroom work. And
I see.
also, yeah, participated. We also have some extension program of which we help our beneficiaries, like farmers. I remember before I left, we had this one extension project. It's a small project, but then it helped the beneficiaries. It's for the cut flowers for chrysanthemum. So we help them grew their own chrysanthemum, and then from that production phase, going to the also with the marketing assistance, and we assist any technical if they have technical problems, so sure they can also ask us. And aside from that, there are also research work, but then unfortunately, because our college is too young, and it's kind of we lack of manpower, because it's just like we're only 10, and then it's with several majors, I guess 4 or 5 majors, so we have to really go for with the work, and especially with lots of students. So it's kind of like, for me, I'm not really into exposed to research yet, but surely when I go back, so yeah, I can, because I think I heard that manpower now in our college is kind of there are now lots of newly hired, and then also top caliber. So yeah.
So are you saying that are you officially on study leave from MSU Naawan, or you have no formal connection to MSU
I
Naawan?
have no formal connection, so I literally quit my job. So
I appreciate young people who do that. I wish I could do that. I have experienced that. But yeah. So I'm glad. Okay. So thank you for that. For a little bit of background about your work. So I'm glad that you were a young instructor then. So I will have a lot of questions about teaching later on. But based from your answer, I have one specific question, because you said that you were into the chrysanthemum production project. But I'm very curious, where do you where's chrysanthemum being grown in Misamis Oriental? Because chrysanthemum needs higher elevation.
There are places in municipalities in Naawan and in Mantika, of which it is really for chrysanthemum. I mean, chrysanthemum can grow there well. I visited the area, and it's really perfect for chrysanthemum.
All right. Okay, so thank you. Yeah, I'm very curious about that. Sige, so based on your background, what is then the program that you're pursuing in the University of Bonn? Do you pursue the same program, Sandy and Jollibee? And if okay, very good. How do you say yes in German, by the way? How do you say yes? Yeah.
Yeah or genau.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah is yes, genau is
yeah
perfect or exactly.
Yeah, genau.
Genau, absolutely. Genau.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sige
so
na, yeah.
then I'm curious, how did you decide to pursue the program that both of you are pursuing in Germany? So, well, I think I skipped the question. What is the program that you're pursuing in Germany for the benefit of everybody? And how did you choose it? Was it your personal choice, or was it something that you had because of your scholarship? I know you're in scholarship, and I'll be asking also a few questions about that later on. So first, tell us what is the program you're pursuing, and how did you decide on that program? Because one was doing research in the Philippines and then extension work, and then but Jollibee was doing basically was an instructor. So who would like? Can we have Sandy? Sandy, please.
Yeah, the program that we're pursuing is called ARTS for short. It's short for Agricultural Sciences and Resource Management in the Tropics and Subtropics. So it's basically a multidisciplinary study program with three major specialization: ecosystems approaches, molecular approaches, and economic approaches. So for me, I pursued the molecular approach track, and Jollibee, I think, followed the ecosystems approach track.
Very interesting. Okay, just for clarity, Sandy and Jollibee are both master students in the University of Bonn. Although I think Sandy went there first. What year? What year? Did you
We
start
went
your first
together.
year?
Together.
Oh,
Same
really?
year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we went for the same year and probably exit in the same year.
Okay. All the while, I was thinking that Sandy was there first, and then Jollibee sort of followed after after a year. So, I never. Well, maybe I was not paying attention to what Sandy was saying. So I'm glad that you went at the same time. You started at the same time. So molecular approach. Very curious why Sandy would be pursuing molecular approach when you were so into extension work. You were so deep into extension work, of course, with the research also when you did work for Series. And then I would understand Jollibee's choice, because Jollibee was majoring in farming systems in her undergrad, and then she chose the ecosystems major. But we'll go back to Sandy, no? Why molecular? So let's have Jollibee first to add more to what Sandy was saying about the program. So it's Master of Science in Agricultural Sciences and Resource Management in the Tropics and Subtropics. It's a mouthful. So so Master of Science in Arts. Parang the acronym is a little bit it's a little bit paradoxical, no? Master of Science and then Arts.
Yeah.
So what made you got interested into the program, in that specific program, Jollibee?
As what Sandy said, it's multidisciplinary. So it's not like we're focusing on one strand. For example, for me, I don't have a background on molecular approaches. And then when I took this program, because we have this compulsory module, so I was able to get information or idea from other strand of the program, and also with the economics. So it's not like you're focusing on one. So it is more like it is more like a cloud. It's a very big cloud, and then later on your next year you can just focus on what you really want to do, which is for me in my side in the ecosystems approaches. So it's nice, and I also see it because afterwards, after finishing the program, it's not like you can just fit in on just one. So you have a lot of opportunities later.
Yeah, thank you for that. Which Sandy, I know I have a pending question for you, but I don't want to lose my train of thought, because both of you emphasized on the aspect of your chosen program to be multidisciplinary. And somehow, if I'm going to reflect based on experience handling several students, one of the things that I don't find a lot is the ability of a number of students, current students, who have, you know, the good sense to really integrate things, to connect learning from one science to another science. And so I was curious why both of you were so interested in a multidisciplinary field when some of the students that I know, past and present, were not into the complicated approach of things. They just want, you know, simple things, but parang unilinear as much as possible. But in fact, you would like the web type of learning. So do you did you get what I was trying to ask? Okay, so maybe you can answer that, both of you, and then Sandy can go back to my previous question. Why the molecular approach when you said previously that, you know, you're not into just science? How could, if you like to pursue extension work, I'm not very sure how anchored in molecular systems would common people be. So, but let's go back first to the question: why is your interest in multidisciplinary in a multidisciplinary program? What makes it really very attractive to you, compared to, you know, some of the students that I know who don't like the complicated disciplines? Sandy, would
Yeah,
you like to go?
yeah, sure. I mean, if I'm going to a farm, for example, if I'm doing research for development, which is what I'm trying to do, not only pure science research, but a research aimed for community development. So as much as possible, I need to learn several things, not only with my focus track, which is molecular approach. And then there's also this one thing that kind of like a stereotype to people who's working with NGOs, that they don't have the scientific grasp to tell that this is good, this is not. And that is what I'm trying to do. Like, I mean, we have our own how do you call it, field of study or specialty. And yes, NGO usually, in general, they're more into the sociological aspect of their cause or of their goal. But then if you complement it with hard science, it would be a powerful tool to do community development. Because if you're trying to do development in the agriculture, if you go to the field and your project there is only participatory plant breeding, but farmers does not only try to address one issue, they also want to address issue on their economics, financial. How can we make this into a money making machine or something, basically, or something like that. So I think with a grasp of a little bit of economics, but not too much. I cannot really understand economics that much, but at least I have an idea of how does these economic systems work, and also like from other fields also, especially on how to write community projects, which is not research-based projects, which is also because if you're planning to do a research or a community development, of course, the most limiting resource is funding. So we also have that kind of subject here. So we were also taught how to make an elevator pitch, how to write community development projects, research projects, how to communicate people in less than 10 minutes, how to translate your hard science research into public friendly presentation. So yeah, I mean, also to your question about why I chose a molecular approach, yeah, I mean, I'm into the thing is I'm into plant genetic resources conservation, but then I realized that it's not only a diversity of genes within the crop that is harbored by the PGRs, but also the microbiome, which is often forgotten by plant breeders. And for me now, I'm pursuing on assessing the microbiome diversity in the rhizosphere, because microbiome, bacteria, archaea, or fungi does not only cause diseases to plants, but some of them are have mutualistic relationship with plants. So I think if I can harness at least a little bit of knowledge, whether I can breed plants with a custom microbiome to boost productivity, not only genes, or I think that would help farmers a lot. And that would at least signify that, for example, if you have a plot of rice, planting only one variety is not enough. Maybe planting 2 or more varieties is better because one variety has this specific, can recruit this specific microbiome or bacteria that can help them in other cycles like nitrogen cycling or maybe less methane emission, something like that.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So before we go to Jollibee, it's very interesting because I think your research interest would provide more science regarding, we have always promoted crop diversification when we do planting, di ba? When people would choose to grow just one crop, we always advise for a multi-varietal monocropping system. And I understand your point of view about microbiome or maybe microbiota. What I understand about microbiome is inside. Microbiota would be maybe the biology, both external and internal to an organism. So I know that you are pursuing that kind of research for your master's. So whatever your findings would be, I think those would be very good proof to really affirm how important it is to practice crop diversification or multi-varietal cropping systems. And I think, of course, Jollibee knows this more than us because that's her discipline way back in her undergrad. But let's go back to her. Welcome back. For Jollibee to explain a little bit what makes her very interested to pursue a multidisciplinary field. Although I sort of have an idea, but it would be good to hear from her. Why this attraction for multidisciplinary program when in fact others don't like, they prefer the unilateral, unilateral system of learning?
Aside from it's exciting because there are lots of you will get lots of views, lots of perspective in every discipline. One thing is like I'm looking what happened after. It's more like a linkage or how do you call this, a connection, because
Network?
network. And because it's like if you're working on just one discipline, it gets like not that crowded. It's like it's so narrow, and then when you have lots of discipline or lots of connection, it's just like it opens lots of opportunities. It opens lots of doors, and then though the enjoyment and excitement is in there, integration, you will have a different views, but it's more like the network, so that you will have the connection where you can not a stable connection. You will create a connection, a network wherein you can just work on it afterwards. So
can I add more?
Yeah, sure. Please do, Sandy.
Yeah, in addition to Jollibee, because my classmates are also very diverse. There are animal science people, there are economics people, there are farming systems people, and the molecular people, I would say. And then if we're given a topic like, for example, climate change, it's also very enjoyable to hear these different views from these different people, what they think about climate change. It's like a learning opportunity with my peers. So having this multidisciplinary approach, as what Jollibee said, we can get a lot of perspective from different people and how to address this specific issue, because one issue cannot be answered by only one solution, but it can be answered by our network of people. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. Goodness gracious, I have a list of questions, but I think I'm foregoing those that particular list because there are just so many things I could glean from your answers. Sige, before I go to one of my intended questions, I really would like to emphasize on what Sandy just said about this appreciation for the diversity of perspectives. Recently, we had we tried to revise some of the, no, not some, most of the graduate programs in the university, so in Central Mindanao University. And I think those were approved for August, for next month. And in principle, those were approved. So one of the things that we sort of debated on in a few meetings was, should we pull together for the graduate seminar? Because me as a graduate student, I really enjoyed my graduate seminars, and similar to what you're experiencing right now, my graduate seminars for both my master's and for my PhD were composed by a diverse set of people. Like, all the graduate students in the college would go together for that particular graduate seminar. Some people, however, are opposed to that. They don't want to put together. So, for example, so for Jollibee's information, so the College of Agriculture is composed of 10 departments. So we have about 11 to 12 major disciplines. So, and I believe, just like what Sandy was saying, if you put together the young people in one room, just for a graduate class, and you could hear, different perspectives, different ideas, then for me, it's the kind of the thing that we need, especially for the current and for the future time. But I feel so sad that not all professors have that kind of mindset. And this is not to critique my colleagues, but I'm just sharing to you that there is also that line of thought. So I'm glad that both of you young people, have this preference for appreciating, diversity of ideas, diversity of perspectives. And because I think I personally think that that's how we could move forward better. Okay, so would Jollibee add something, or no more? Okay. It's everybody's opinion is they have the right to their opinion. I'm just happy to know that there are people like you, young people like you, who value that kind of perspective. Okay, so I'm gonna quiz Sandy a little bit. Pasensya Jollibee because because Sandy was, you were saying that you like this diversity of perspectives, but you said that you were not very interested in economics, but you would like to pursue research for community development. You know that the number one SDG, the first SDG, is about zero poverty. It's about addressing the economic concern of people all over the world, especially for our country. Although we're getting better, but there's still a significant proportion of Filipinos who belong to the poverty line or even lower than the poverty line. So how come you are least interested in the economics track or strand of your program, when research for community development should actually address first their financial status? And I can relate it because the first sustainability development goal is actually about zero poverty.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do a research for development, it's not only one people's going to do the work, it's always a team. And for me, I have to extend to them what is my specialties. I cannot tell them how to do economically because it's not my specialty. So there are other people who can help them better than me. That's what I can say. But at least I can get a little bit of knowledge. So I will not, when I go to the field or work with different people, I will not get lost in thought also. So I need just enough working knowledge for me to get by for that specific goal.
Yeah, well, I respect that. And you are correct. No, we cannot be masters of all disciplines, but it's good to be aware of some and to focus on your strength. So yeah, absolutely agree with you, Sandy. I remember, sorry, madaldal ako. So I remember one time for my PhD program, one of my professors who was a member of my panel was a stats expert, statistician, Dr. Donald Bullock. And he wanted me to derive a formula, no, for my what is it? It was my comprehensive exam, sort of, for my PhD. And he wanted me to derive a formula. And I said, I cannot derive that. I leave it to the experts, but I can use statistical tools to help me with my field. So anyway, I passed, and he gave me a smile. But anyway, all right. So yeah, I went through memory lane, but it reminded me of that. So yeah, Sandy, I like your answer. Sige, my question is, how many years have you been in Germany? Jollibee was saying that maybe you would be asking for extensions. I'm curious. You've been there for about 2 years already, or is it more than 2 years already?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Almost.
Okay, so before we continue with the very serious stuff, let's try to focus on some light topics first. So you've been there for almost 2 years. How is it being a student in Germany, specifically the University of Bonn? By the way, where is the University of Bonn in Germany? In what city is it is located?
City of Bonn.
Okay, so I'm sorry about that. I didn't do my research. But what's the capital of Germany, by the way?
Berlin.
It's Berlin.
Berlin.
It's a city
Berlin.
state.
And how far is Bonn from Berlin?
Maybe around 500 kilometers.
5-hour drive by train.
Okay, see the difference in how a female answers.
Yeah.
So me, I was thinking about hours because like I would be able to estimate the distance if I know by hours, and I'm glad Charlie provided the answer. So 5 hours, and then Sandy provided the distance like 500 kilometers.
Yeah.
So I got
To give,
I got the best of both answers. But anyway,
Bonn is just south of Cologne.
yeah, I've heard about Cologne. So,
And-
okay.
Yeah. And this is actually the birthplace of Beethoven.
Beethoven.
So, have you been to watch a Beethoven concert, or was
No.
were you never?
No, because of COVID.
But you were not yet. You were there before COVID started, or COVID hit the country or the world. So okay. Anyway, so my
Yeah.
challenge for you, although this is like me, an older sister talking to you, my challenge for you is before you come home, hopefully you would be able to listen to a concerto, the Beethoven concerto, or a concert or whatever. And is
They
there a
don't have that
museum?
thing.
They don't
Yeah,
have that.
his
here?
house. His house
We were
is
able
still
to see
there.
his house.
You've been there. Both of you have been there.
It's just in the
Good.
city. No, it's just
Okay.
in the city, so you can just come by.
Okay. All right. So you've been there for almost 2 years. So even with the pandemic, how is it? Is it still good? Because here, basically all universities do not do the face-to-face yet. Although there are some programs that try to apply for, limited face-to-face conduct of classes. So I know, for example, that for CMU, the College of Nursing will be allowed to have a limited face-to-face classes by August. Like, I don't know how they would do it, but only a few students will be allowed to come, or I don't know the system. But how is it there in Germany, in your university?
Jollibee?
At first, like this year or last year, when did we start our online class?
Summer semester last year.
What is
Summer semester last year.
From
July,
March to
March
July,
to-
something like that.
March to July. So it's all online. So we miss a lot. For me, it's hard, and because I had a great high expectation for summer term because all the modules that it's really interesting, And it could be lots of excursions, lots of laboratory works, lots of interactions, but then it didn't happen because of COVID. So it's all like online. So it's, for me, it's the moment of truth for my thesis supposedly, because that will I can make, or I can make a topic or look for a research area, but then it's all online, so presentations, just online. And now, at least this semester or last semester, we were able to go out, but it's not that easy because you need test every now and then. And it's easier if you're it's easier now, it's easier if you're vaccinated. Good thing for our master's thesis, we have our classmates in which the institute is not allowed to start a master's thesis, a new project. So meaning there is no experiment, no laboratory work. So most of them are doing secondary experiment. But lucky us, we were able to do experimental. So I guess now it's not as hard compared to the first wave of COVID here.
Yeah, and
Yes.
last year we're supposed to go to Ghana for an excursion, but then COVID hit, so it was all scrapped.
Yeah.
Okay. So you lost your Ghana.
Yeah, we lost our
We lost
Ghana.
we lost
Well, we
opportunity.
don't know. Maybe there would be better opportunities, especially that I think Germany is really moving forward when it comes to vaccination. Here in
Yeah,
the
and for
Philippines,
and for
here
testing, they provide free tests every week, one
Yes.
test per person.
Yeah.
is it still from the the test samples coming from your nostril, or is it now saliva? Because
No, the rapid test, I think.
Rapid test.
Mm-mm. That
yes, but the sample okay.
yeah,
That's
something like that.
better compared to here because according to
I know
many people, still
here, yeah, here pala.
okay.
I tried
No,
once.
they have to here and in the mouth, in the throat
Maybe
goes.
depends.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because my old university, I think, was one of the first universities that tried to do some bulk saliva sampling, which would be cheaper. So they've done that before. So they have allowed many students to come back to campus because it's very cheap to do the saliva sampling, and it's bulk. So if a bulk sample, like salivas of 10 people would be positive, then they can just go back to those 10 people. But anyway, sorry, extra information. So so again, I think all over the world, learning online was very challenging for many. I've heard the point of view of students who would always have that concern. So at least in Germany, I would assume you don't have problems with internet connection, right?
That's the lucky part.
Yeah.
The lucky part, and indeed you're very lucky, because when we started with online learning in March of 2020, it was difficult for both the faculty and the students, and I think you've heard a lot of stories about that, but we will not go there. But I'm very curious because one of the things that I'd like to learn from both of you is because I thought that you have a lot of you have some good practices that maybe I could glean from and perhaps could be useful for as we begin classes by August. But I was struck by what Jollibee was saying, that it was just presentation, because I remember as a faculty when we started with online and we were scrambling because the system was not in place. So the system was never in place. But I remember when Sandy was my student, whenever I travel, I usually would sort of send them something through email, but it was just through email. Did I ever do that? That I would send, let's say, a paper to read or an assignment to do.
Yeah, at least for the majors, I remember like you sent us papers and then you just give me instruction like, okay, prepare a presentation about this paper, something like that.
Kaya ka talaga magsalita, ha?
Yeah. Yeah,
With
it's not
emotions.
Sandy. It's not
Yeah,
Sandy.
well, it's okay. I'm used to him, Jollibee. It's okay. But Many of us were so unprepared, but when we had to, I remember it was middle of the semester, we just finished midterms for the second semester, and then classes had to be suspended on March 16, and then thereafter. But I can still keep track of my students, because one of the things that I require from my students at the start of the class, at the start of every semester, would be for them to have an email address. For some classes, it's not required, but for me, I sort of require an email address, because I look forward that when I do travel, I could still sort of send them learning activities, because one of the things that I don't want, I have the principle that I don't want to shortchange my students when it comes to learning. That even if when I'm away, they would still learn something. And sometimes they have to do a lot when I'm on travel. So I was able to do that, monitor the students, but of course we were using social media, because students really cannot get access to the internet. So you know the system in the Philippines. Energy security is still a concern. Internet security is still a concern, and even until now, but things are getting better. But going back to my curiosity about Jollibee being not very satisfied with just presentation, what did you want? I mean, because from my point of view, I decided that wherever my students were, their home gardens, because I teach crop science, okay? My subjects would be genetics, crop genetics, or related to crop science. I decided there and then that I could still teach the same principles or concepts, but the laboratory for the students would be now their home gardens or their farms or their own communities. So, of course, they have some kind of presentation, but we avoided the presentation because that access cannot be sustained by the students. So we had to do some alternative. And I think for some, it worked for them, but for some, maybe because some students really need like a lot of supervision, a lot of instruction before they can accomplish something. So, so was it just presentation and presentation and presentation, or something else was done by your professors?
Last winter, a summer semester, because we have this handbook, and we get a list of modules, and on the list of modules there are also description on how this module will be going for this semester. So lots of actually modules during the summer semester involves laboratory works. And that's why I enrolled the module, but then COVID came, so it's online. So instead of having a laboratory works, we were just sent with lots of papers, and at the end of the semester, we're going to present the paper that we read. So that's why I refer to presentations. But that's because of the expectation, and here's COVID, so it's more like table work and no interaction or any first-hand works.
Yeah, but
So
I have one. Yeah, sorry.
So
I have one, but sorry.
Go ahead, Sandy.
I would
Go
like
ahead.
to. Yeah, I would like to add, because I have one module, which is, I'm so lucky that we actually went to the greenhouse and performed an experiment, and that's where we got our final exam to present the data, like a small defense of our experiment. So, yeah.
Thank you. But I'm sure that even with alternative systems of learning, I always believe, maybe because it's me speaking as an older person, that there would always be some positives. Although Sandy mentioned the positivity, but being grounded on just reading a lot of papers, self-learning using your modules, and then doing presentation, mostly presentation at the end of the semester. What would be the benefits that you also gained? Although that was not what you expected, but if you sort of look from be the outside person looking into the system, what benefits still did you gain from such alternative learning system?
Can I answer first?
Yes, Sandy, please.
Of course, we are fed with articles, and we are like pages of articles, scientific articles. And then again, we are asked to present a 10-minute PowerPoint presentation. So I think one of the benefits is we can really actually make a story, a 10-minute story out of those articles. And what I would, what the thing also I like here about this, that I have one professor, at least one professor, that if you ask like, how did I do? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses during the presentation? They will actually send you a detailed explanation on why you got this grade. Like your strengths are these. You made a good story, but you overtime, you forget to mention this and blah blah blah. So I think it also, how do I say it? But the professors are also caught off guard also, and we were like the experimental batch on how to do this online learning thing. But I think it makes us more make the scientific article less scary to read, something like that. And we were actually also we were trained on how to make this very scientific paper into a more consumable a consumable form, in like a presentation. I think that's a skill that we developed during this pandemic.
Thank you, Sandy. I like what you just said, although I'll go back to that, but because I'm interested to hear what Jollibee would say.
For my side, presentation is kind of scary for me.
But you were an
Yes.
instructor. But you were an instructor. How come?
Yeah, it's irony. When I was still in undergrad, we do reportings. I'm really scared of that. I'm not really into speaking a lot of people. But then when I became
Wait,
instructor,
but you're one of the best speakers there. You speak very well and clearly and not very
thank
fast. I like it so much.
thank you. That's what I learned here because of the presentation. I was able to like improve. And then it's more like what would be the points to add, what would be the points to include, and what would be the points not to include. And then it's like I was also able to like how I am going to handle the constructive criticism because here it's when your professor would tell you you shouldn't, I mean, you shouldn't take it personally.
Yeah.
It is for your betterment. It's for the betterment of your presentation for the next time. So it's just like, okay, this is a criticism, so I'm gonna use this not for me to feel down, but then I will do this to better my presentation next time. So that's what I learned for it. Lots of
Yeah. And
Okay.
presentation.
sometimes they invite professors during the presentation.
Mhm.
That is one also of the co-authors of the paper, so it makes more like
Yes.
scary.
And we
Yeah.
also have this one module here that it is one module or subject wherein at the end of the semester, we should do presentation that is coming from our country. So it is a presentation wherein it's kind of public. The whole university is invited. So your audience is diverse. Your audience is not all scientific audience. So you have to really adjust your presentation, which you should know your audience, that your audience can understand.
Yeah.
So that's it.
I'm glad that I have to, to squeeze the juices out of you, because definitely agree that in difficult times, and even if people had to rush, your professors had to rush to do something different, but the thing is that you actually gained a lot of you get better at things. And I'd like to just emphasize what Sandy said, because indeed, technical papers or journal articles, they have a lot of meat there. They have a lot of nutrients there. If knowledge, nutrients, and if you just know how to squeeze and how to chew. So I like what you said, that you have been trained and you have appreciated the fact that you're getting better and you're enjoying that you can share, for about 10 minutes, the substance or the meat of a particular paper, no matter how many pages would that be. And then Jollibee was saying that you were also trained to sort of learn a better language to share knowledge. And that's the thing that I wish a lot of university students in the Philippines would take to heart and would enjoy. And I'm glad that you share that here, because there's so, like, the journal articles and the journals are a minefield of knowledge and information, and we haven't mined them well. Okay. And I don't know, maybe in the future, because Sandy is a suki for me when it comes to sharing to my class. I would like him to demonstrate something similar, and maybe Jollibee would become also a I could network with you, and you could, even if you're still there in Germany, you could help a lot of students in CMU. I don't know about your home university. Hopefully somebody would also connect with you from your home university, because sometimes it's nice to hear from others. Sometimes they get so used to me talking about this and talking about this, and well, the age gap could be a factor, but if they see that two young people are actually enjoying their time reading technical papers and gleaning a lot from it and learning a better language to communicate. Because yun yung sinasabi na science people should learn better ways to communicate. Of course, know your audience, sabi nga ni Jollibee. If you're talking to high caliber scientists, sure, you can be jargonic and technical. But if we go back to working for communities, trying to be an agent for their development, for their growth, economic growth, you better learn their language. So I think that's one of the skills that, I'm glad that both of you realize that, and hopefully what you just said could also be a stepping stone and encouragement for a lot of Filipino students here.
Can I add more?
Yes, please.
Yeah, because based on what you said earlier, that people are tired of you hearing the same things from you all the time. Yeah, I mean, here, the culture here is not unlike in our CMU or maybe in other Philippine universities. One subject is headed by one professor. And then he has a lot of junior professors who's going to discuss several topics based on their expertise. So it's always a team teaching. And it's not always one professor, one subject.
Yes.
No, it's always team teaching based on the expertise. So, because my professor, sometimes I ask questions like, why are these things like this? And he would say like, I cannot answer you that because it's not my expertise. Maybe you can contact this professor or this person, because I can say something, but I'm not sure. I'm not the correct person to ask for that kind of question. So I also see that kind of humility among the professors here, which is also humiliating for the students' part, because one time, I don't know if there are professors actually in the Philippines that I am the god in this classroom. Like, okay. So I think because sometimes professors also learn from the students, because they also admit that they're only doing research and they don't have experience in this specific area. So it's always a two-way interaction, learning, something like that.
Yeah, I hope you had that experience from me when you were my
No,
student.
not you. Not definitely you. Not definitely you.
No, but thank you for that. But actually, my point earlier was when I would encourage students about appreciating, because actually in their third year, I would force them already to read technical papers. They know that. I would force them to read technical papers. And I would always say, it's just actually like watching a movie. It's a 2-hour movie, basically. But when you will be asked, what's the movie about? You don't have to speak about the movie for 2 hours too. You can just share something about the movie for about maybe 15 minutes. If you're so detail oriented, maybe 30 minutes. But just like what you said, that you can reduce a very lengthy technical paper into a 10-minute presentation. So I was talking more about you know, how Filipino students should love reading technical papers.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
okay, well, it's good that you mentioned that, because some courses in the university are being team taught already.
Mm-mm.
Um, Sometimes it's the senior professor who teaches the lecture class, and it would be the junior instructors who would be teaching the laboratory. So I think that's happening. At least I know that for our department, for the Department of Agronomy and Plant Breeding. But because there are also fewer people, then sometimes the professor has to handle both lecture and lab.
Mm.
So I hope that these systems would get better. I don't know about in MSU, Jollibee. How is it there? I've visited your campus only once.
Okay. Yeah, because when I was still there, we're also few. And yeah, we do team teaching. So somebody will teach for the laboratory, some would handle the lecture. And also, if for the lecture, it's just like, if this is not my expertise, I can tap one of the instructor and then ask him or her to have a presentation for this. So it's also a team teaching, but not as team teaching as here.
Right. So what is then team teaching there? If you can give us a picture of how team teaching is done in your current university, because you said it's not
Um,
the same as in the Philippines.
yes, because in the university where I came from, it's like, example for one subject, it is separated between a laboratory and a lecture. So
Okay.
laboratory, it's the all laboratory for one instructor, and then the whole lecture is just lectured by one instructor. But
I see.
here, one module is like you have different topics, and
Mm-hmm.
each topic of one module is like you have different professors or
Handle.
different lecturers. So it's like here in one module, it's either we will get 3, 4, or 5 lecture for one
Oh,
semester. So that's, yeah.
that's the difference. All right.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
know for sure that for some of the subjects in CMU, at least I can speak for CMU and also for UP, that is also being done. Like for one, you could have 3 to 4 professors in one subject. Okay, so for UP, even for the lecture class, they're going to divide that based on who would be the expert. For CMU, for example, when you talk about crop protection, so there will be several areas for crop protection. There would be the weed science, there
Mm-mm.
will be the entomology, there would be the plant pathology. So at least there would be 3 people for one semester handling just the crop protection subject. Yeah, so yeah, okay, that's good then. So how is it difficult to adjust? Team teaching can be good, but it can also be a bane for some, because some people, are so comfortable with the style of one professor, the first professor, and then they have to do adjustment again with the second professor, with the third professor, with the fourth professor. The fact that you sort of laugh, it means that it could have happened to you. So
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
okay, you can share something about it, but my my major question would be, how did you overcome that, like making so many adjustments to the different styles of teaching for just one course.
Ah, that's an interesting question because for me, I just go with the flow.
For me, it's
If I'm sleepy, I just sleep like that or yawn. But yeah, but sometimes it's hard. I still don't have that system actually to adjust to different lecture because there are really lecturers that when they speak, they're like speaking lullabies. But there are also lecturers that when they speak like you, it makes the topic really interesting and you need to listen. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't have that system yet.
Okay, so yeah, let's have Jollibee, because she's a lady, and I think women in general, although I hope this is not gender bias or something, women in general have more adaptability when it comes to, I don't know. I'll stop talking because some people may accuse me of being gender biased.
for me, it's not so hard. Yeah, not so hard adjusting from one lecturer with the other lecturer. It's just like if this lecturer, I would just focus on the lecture. And yeah, I have some maybe critic with how he or she do the lecture, but the lecture itself, if it is interesting enough, then no problem with me. And if the next lecturer also, but yeah, true with Sandy, because there are some also lecturer that would really intimidate you. It's just like when he or she just enter into the classroom, it's just like he did nothing, so it's just his presence, then everyone would just like, okay, this is something. Yeah. And then it that makes me hard how to adjust. How should I prepare beforehand? So yeah,
Yeah,
but in general, not so hard for me to
yeah,
adjust.
because for me, that's why it's hard because I always learn by asking questions. If I'm not interested in that topic, I don't have any question in mind because all I'm thinking about is I need to go home, I need to sleep, something like
You
that.
do, yeah, you do doodles every time you don't like or you're
Yeah,
not interested in the subject. I know that. He does. He
I
did
know
that
when
to me
he's
all
on
the time.
fire.
Yes.
Because for
Okay.
me, like because I hate reading after the class, that's why when during the class I always ask a lot of questions and I need to clarify what the things that I don't need to clarify. So if that person or that lecturer is not, I don't know, inviting to listen, to be listened, I cannot ask question.
Yeah. Well, of course, that's your style. No, those are
Yeah,
your. If I may just share a little bit, that's one of the things. I'm not sure if Sandy remember this because sometimes he would not listen to me. He was busy
Yeah,
doing
he
other.
told me that.
Yeah. In I would always inform my students that do not expect your professors to be the same. We definitely are different. We have different teaching styles. So maybe just to sort of add to both of you, because you will still be there for a few more semesters. But I think it's good to hear what you said. Uh, you have different ways of adjusting to such situation, but basically even in your home universities, even when you were doing undergrads, I would tell my students, do not expect your professors to be clone of one another. There is
yeah,
genetic diversity among your professors, and there is diversity of learning style. When when Jollibee said that a professor could be very intimidating, sometimes it's just a technique, or maybe it's not intentional. It's just how he or she carries himself or herself. But sometimes it's also a good lesson that because in real life we deal with different people.
yeah,
We deal with different people, and I hope that students would also reflect on that the university life is a good training ground to adapt and to adjust to different kinds of people. But I have a similar sentiment with Jollibee that I don't really struggle when I had different professors before, whether somebody who can barely speak English. Sorry, because I had professors like that who were my old university, the University of Illinois, had a policy on faculty diversity. So every year they're very conscious about the percentage of foreign faculty that they need to get. So of course they are very competent. They're the top in their disciplines, but language wise, it's a little bit difficult. It's a little bit difficult for everybody. But it's more of my technique was to be interested in the accent, in the manner of speaking of the professor. It helps because if even if how do I say it, I need to be both interested in the topic and in the accent, and in the manner by which he speaks, and the personal challenge that okay, he doesn't speak English very well, but I'm going to challenge myself to understand the manner and the manner by which he speaks. So I don't know if Jollibee has that kind of thinking, but it never was a difficulty for me whenever I had an Indian professor, a German professor, a Japanese professor, ano pa, ang dami, a Russian
United
professor.
Nations.
Yeah, somebody from
European.
UK, definitely. It's like a whole wide world, and it helped me a lot that I trained myself to be interested in different languages. Even if even French, even Brazilian, even oh my God, a very different accent, but the fact that I'm interested, I just have a good feeling just listening to different cacophony of accent, and yeah, it helped, Sandy. It helped. So if you remember, I'm not sure if I hope I did this in your class. I usually would give you videos like videos spoken by English resource people or narrated by some Indians, just to challenge my students to train their ear. Okay, maybe a little bit later, because you were one of my older students. Joke. You're one of my older students. You graduated in 2014. So I know that. Correct? Sorry. Binista pa kita. Hala, Sandy, 2014, which means that?
I'm 25.
No, 2 years ago. You're 20 years ago.
Anyway, but that's, I think that's something that needs to be discussed. I think it's something that is good to point out. If you really want to train our university students to be more global, okay, to be globally competent, I think one of the trainings that need to be done is for them to be comfortable listening to different accents and different, language. The English is still the spoken word, but how people of different races speak English. Because especially if you're a student, your goal is to learn, and you will miss a lot of the learning every class if just because you don't like how your professor speaks and his accent or his broken English or whatever, then that's your loss. But for globalization, I think that's something that is not often discussed. It's not often emphasized that we need to train our students' ears and tongue, in terms of English being spoken by different tongues. So
Can I add
I
something?
think
yes, please, Jollibee. Yes, please.
Yeah, I think we are somehow are prepared for that, because when we still had our face-to-face class, we had this module that we need to present individually. So we are more than 20. So meaning we are going to deal with 20 accents.
You mean to say 20 different nationalities in your class?
Yes, I
Wow.
guess, right? 20. So it's just like
maybe.
I think so, more than 20.
So what are the nationalities of your classmates then? Just out of curiosity.
Maybe
So
not
let me
20. That's a
Not
lot.
20, not, maybe
Yeah,
more
because we
than
have
10.
Philippines, Germany, Ghana, Nigeria, Morocco,
No,
Vietnam,
Myanmar,
Myanmar,
Ethiopian,
Ethiopia,
Bangladesh,
Bangladesh, Pakistan, Afghanistan,
Pakistan, Iranian,
Iranian, Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan,
Yeah, it's more than 10.
Colombian, Mexican.
Colombia, Mexico. Yeah.
So we have lots.
Wow. So that's like the United Nations.
Yeah, basically
Yeah,
the
it
United
is.
Nations.
They are those from all over the
FAO.
world.
So aside from your program,
Indonesian, we also have Indonesians.
although our accent would be similar to the Indonesians. Yeah, but aside from your program being multidisciplinary, is it really purposively multinational also? Is that
Yes.
Yeah.
okay.
Because the concept is tropics and subtropics. So the program actually recruits students from countries that belongs to the tropics and the subtropics, which is from the the global south, basically.
I
And
wish I
maybe the
could
global
sit
north a
in.
little bit.
I wish I could sit in your classes. Just sit in. It would be a blast for me to just sit in and
Yeah.
just listen and
And
observe.
also, I think for our scholarship program, it is offered for developing countries. So
So
Okay.
maybe
okay.
the reason.
Now that Jollibee mentioned it, can you share what is your scholarship? You have the same scholarship with Sandy.
Yeah.
What is the scholarship? How did you learn about it? What was the process of you finally getting it, and what are the benefits? Because the fact that two of you from the Philippines were accepted for the program, then I hope you're doing a, you know, you're doing a good work establishing Filipinos to be a, good investment for the program. And hopefully some students who would be hopefully watching or listening to this video may be inspired or encouraged to also apply for your program. So what's the program about? What is it, and what is it about, and what's the process?
The scholarship is basically DAAD. It's in German, Deutsche Akademische
Deutsche
Auslandsamt, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But in English, it's
I can
German
speak it.
Exchange Services.
Say
And
that
then the
again,
program,
Patty. Say that again. In English. In English.
German Exchange
Exchange.
Services, but
Mm.
it's globally known as DAAD.
Daad.
And the,
Daad.
yeah, Daad, and then
I
the,
used to call it Daad, but here they just like it's DAAD.
mm-mm. And then the
Alright.
program is, because they have a lot of programs, like scholarship depends on what kind of scholarship, like PhD and masters. But for masters, it's the APOS program. I'm not sure what is APOS.
It's
I
for
forgot.
developing countries.
Yeah, something like that. Developing countries. So basically, the minimum requirement is you have at least 2 years work experience for the APOS
Mm.
program. So if you don't have that basic requirement, you cannot apply. You're disqualified already because they need that 2 years experience. And then the paper requirements is in their website. I cannot memorize everything, but you need the basics like motivation letter, CV, and references. But then in terms of selection, because you're going to apply per program per university, it's not the DAAD that's going to select people who's going to be offered a scholarship, but their partner programs here in Germany. So I cannot say what are their selection criteria, but I think it's based on the motivation letter and your CV. But then there are other aspects because I also talked with my program coordinator before and she mentioned something about that. They don't really look for excellent students, like academically and maybe professionally, but they are looking for students who have very commendable work experience in the field that they're chosen, and as long as it also in the same direction as the goal of their study program, and then their motivation also is really compelling or something like that. I think they're also aiming for diversity.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, Sandy, because real work experience is actually an actual proof of how you are as a human resource. So there are a lot of people who are top caliber, but maybe well, I'll just stop there. So would you like to add something, Jollibee, to what Sandy said?
DAAD. Yeah.
Okay. How long was the process? Like, although Sandy said he cannot really share the details of the process, but from the moment that you submitted your documents, how long did you wait for that email that says congratulations, you got accepted to the program? A year. So
Yeah,
it's
a year.
A year?
Almost a year, because for my side, I submitted all the documents on September because the deadline is something September 15, if I remember it right. And then they emailed me 5 days later that they received my application. And January, the following year, I got an email that for I was shortlisted. Yeah. And then later for the interview was February. And
How was on?
months.
Was it face to face? The
No, by
interview was it
phone.
online?
It
By
is
phone.
a interview by phone, a 15-minute phone call. But for
How
me,
is it? How is it?
that
Did
that
somebody
was
speak in a German accent?
No. I
no,
don't
no.
know.
Because the interviewer has a really nice accent because
Program
he
coordinator,
program coordinator, so
the director rather director.
it's not so hard to like understand his accent. That was the longest 15-minute interview that I have. And February, March, April, I got the letter of award of which that says you're accepted. And then on the same month, I started the online class, German online class. And then all the paperwork, visa, everything. And then I finished it June, and then I flew like end of July and come here at August 1st for the real German class.
German class.
And that's the fall semester, right? For August. Do they call it fall
Winter.
semester?
Winter.
Winter semester.
semester. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Basically,
for-
August is break,
Mm.
and the winter semester starts on
it's
October.
summer break.
I
But
see.
for us, we have the program starts October, but then for us we have to go through 2-month preparatory language course. So we came here 2 months early. So we came here August.
So do you have to pass your German language class before you get admitted? So
I
there was
think so. Yes.
examination?
No.
Not really
we're
pass,
pl-
but
we're
get a
tr-
certificate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we need to
Okay.
finish it with no absences.
Yeah, we really
Okay.
have to finish it because it's in the contract. We have
Contract.
this contract. Like it is really mandatory. If you're not going to take that, if it is not a valid reason, then there will be a tendency that your scholarship will be not be given to you.
So,
So how would they know that you are at least you have adequate understanding of the German language, and was there no assessment, even a little assessment that you have a little bit of grasp of the German language and you can speak a little bit of German so that you don't get lost there or or get abused?
We have to complete exams for us to get a certificate. Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
We have eins, right?
Certificate.
Yeah. 1.1. So just the basic German.
I think it's A1.2.
Yeah, I guess I'll check my
I don't know.
certificate later.
It's like very basic.
I still have my certificate here.
All right. Just a very curious question. What's the grading system there? Is it letter grades or numerical grades?
Numeric.
Just like CMU, but different scale.
Different
One
scale.
is
So
the
what's the scale?
highest.
5
One is
is
the highest, and 5 is the failing grade. But the how do you call it? Like
passing
I mean like in the
range.
Philippines we have 3, 4, 4, 3, 2.75, but it's not the same
No.
because we have like 1.7, 1.3, then 1.0. 1.2, then 1.3.
2.3.
Yeah.
The highest is 1, 1.3, 1.7, 2, 2.3, 2.7, 3, then 4,
4, and then 5.
4.7, then 5.
Okay.
The passing is 4.
Okay. Well, I
Yeah.
understand that, although I don't understand their preference for 0.3 and 0.7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
But
all
then-
right. So
But if you fail the subject, you'll get another chance to get
Two
another
times.
exam, but late at the end of the semester.
but it's just like removal exam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in CMU, there's removal exam. In UP, basically, if you take the final exam, that's technically your removal exam. It's pass or fail if you take, because in the UP system, you get exempted from the final exam if your grade would be, not 3. But if you are listed, if your name is in the list of people who should take the final exam, technically it's the removal exam. But anyway,
Yeah.
all right. So let me go back to what because it took almost a year for you to go through the waiting time, the maybe a little bit of worry, a little bit of excitement, and then stuff like that. How did you handle the long waiting time? I'm just curious about that. For Fulbright, it's also almost a year, but I was not very mindful about it because I was so focused in work. Um, but maybe are you the same? Like you sort of forgot about it and you just get so a little bit worried or excited when another document is asked of you or another process needs to be done and to get over with. So I remember that I really did not mind so much the long waiting time because I had so much work in the university. But I'm curious about the two of you. How did you handle the long waiting time before
For
receiving the
me,
letter of award?
yeah,
Yes,
sorry.
Sandy.
Yeah, for me, yeah, kind of forgot. But then also, I was also like, I have this concept like, the more entries, the more chances of winning.
Yeah.
So aside from waiting for that, I was also making a lot of. That's why during that
True.
time I asked a lot of recommendation letter. But then there's also one time that I got an interview for a research for the teaching assistantship in the US, and she was really on board with me to have me in her lab. So I also registered for a GRE exam and stuff like that, and then I get the final admission that I get the scholarship, and I emailed her like, I get a scholarship, so I'm going to go with this one. So
In the
yeah,
German.
so something like that. The same.
How about you, Jollibee? Did you do the same? Like the more the more entries, the more chances of
The more,
winning.
Because for me, kind of, it's a risk because I really set it into myself like this is really my last semester for teaching. So the next semester, I will really quit my job and I should really start my master's degree. So it's kind of stressful for me. But the waiting is like sometimes I forget about it because yeah, the more entries, the more chances of winning. I submitted lots of application and I also got lots of rejection and some acceptance, but
yeah.
it's yeah, lots of rejection. So it's just like okay, then if I get rejected, at least I tried. And one of my thinking before submitting any application is just like I will not think about if it will really be accepted. I would just like I did my best to like apply or to submit to try, and then it is in my end. That is from my end. So whatever happens after that, I mean I'm not controlled. I'm not I don't
Yeah,
have a so
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
and the
because
thing also is there is a deadline because they give us deadline that this is the selection period and this month. So I sometimes I will remember and then it makes me stressful like, oh, what happened now with the selections? Like is it is it I am included in the selected student or the for the scholarship? And then it's just like okay, I'm just going to make myself busy for work, but then you can't really stop thinking about it.
yeah,
yeah.
I was
Uh,
also have this philosophy of hope for the best, but
Yeah,
expect for the worst.
prepare.
So I
For
don't
me,
have to
prepare
be
for the worst.
the
yeah.
expectations.
It's good to hear from both of you to have similar mindset about handling such thing, applying for many opportunities. And I think one good thing about that is that you were so conscious and very proactive about sourcing opportunities for your personal and professional growth, because it's so different from me. I only applied just one, and then that's it. And then I just claim it. I just said, okay, I'm gonna apply for it. I'm gonna prepare my documents and then just claim it. And so that's why it's very different. Of course, yeah, we have how many generations? Just one generation. So it's good to hear from you that you have that kind of mindset. Maybe I also had a very well. I have a very different um, personal philosophy also, that when I decide for something, I would claim it to be mine. Of course, I am grounded in my faith. Sandy and I would usually have a discussion about, or we usually don't have a discussion about faith, but it's okay. It's another
Yes.
topic. I'm not going to discuss about that now, but
Not
I'm
with
so
Sandy.
I'm so grounded on that because I just applied for one and that's it. The same thing for my master's, I only applied for one. The same for my PhD, I only applied for one. But let me go back to Sandy first before I go back to both of you. Because Sandy had an opportunity to go to the US. But why did you, and you said that your opportunity to do a TA, to be a TA in the US was sort of a sure ball already. Because I know that you've been to the US at least once. You've been there at least once, Sandy, for a program, right?
Yeah.
But why did you choose to go to Europe? I mean, I went to the US. It was my first choice for a PhD because I said after UP, two degree programs in UP, I said I want to learn something, but not anymore in UP. I want to go to the US and learn. And now after the US, some of my friends would say, Joy, apply for a postdoc in the US. I said, no, I don't want to go back to the US. I want to learn from another country, let's say Europe. But so far, maybe that's not God's plan for me because I'm already this old and I was not interested to pursue a postdoc, but it's okay. It's a different story. So Sandy, going back to you, why choose Europe when you've had a taste of the US academic system? And why did you decide to go to Europe instead?
I think the same reason, diversity, cultural diversity, and of course, Europe is very accessible. I mean, they are interconnected by a train system. And I think one part also is laziness because if I go to the US, I work as a TA. And I think it's not easy work, it's hard work. But if I go here in Germany, I have a scholarship and I just wait for the money. So yeah, I'm a little bit lazy person, but I try to also work hard, something like that. But it's not the main reason, the laziness, but it's part of the reason because I also need to think about practicality because do I need to study? Do I need to split my time between study and work or just focus my time on studying? So I chose focus my time on studying and having fun at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Good for you. Although I really don't agree with you that you call yourself lazy. I think when you're not interested in something, nobody can force you to do something about it if you're not interested. But I think you're one of the most hardworking young people that I've met. Remember in your thesis, I had to beg you to stop doing many different types of statistical analysis for your thesis because I said, oh my God, the thesis is getting thicker and thicker and thicker. And I don't have the time to read everything because once you get interested in something, you're just so into it. So I hope please don't call yourself lazy. If I
no,
may,
I mean because that thing is I don't really see it as hard work because I'm enjoying it. Anything that enjoys me is not hard work for me. It's like chill work for me because I'm loving it.
Right, exactly. But the thing that I said is that when you're not interested in something, nobody can force you to do it. But I think it's not laziness, okay? Because you're very hardworking. I've seen you do that. Come on. Do not call yourself lazy. Well, we have our days. We have our days that we don't want to do a lot of work, but I don't think it's part of your true nature to define yourself as a lazy person. All right, so going back to, God, it's more than an hour that we've been talking. So I don't think we have followed okay, let me see. For me, this is random. And that's why I just said, possible questions, but a lot of those questions really don't get followed. So I'm interested because we're down to our maybe last, okay lang ba hanggang 5 tayo? About 2 hours.
What time is it? 11?
That's fine.
Oh yeah, it's
4:35
here. But maybe just a couple of questions maybe for you.
It's fine for me.
When you are done.
I don't have work.
Oh, yeah. My question is supposed to be that when you're done with your program, will you be coming home? Because I also know some people some Filipino scholars who have other plans. If you have other plans of, you know, pursuing graduate degrees, that's I don't think that's a problem. But
Yeah.
do you plan to come home and contribute? You want to do, for example, for Sandy, research for development, for community development, but I hope doing that for the country is part of your personal agenda. But before you answer that, I'm just curious actually, because this is an issue that I think needs to be talked about. I'm going back to Jollibee. You can prepare for whatever you will think, Peter Sandy. But I'm very curious, Jollibee, because you said that you had to resign from your job. Personally, I've been a beneficiary of being granted study leaves. So study leaves for my master's with pay, study leave for my PhD with pay. So I had double compensation, salary, and my scholarship funding. And but I know that there are some people like you who had to resign in order to pursue graduate studies abroad. And please, you can comment on this. I don't think it's a wise decision for academic management, for management in academies, to lose people who are who have the goal to pursue personal and professional growth, and especially to learn a different academic life by going abroad. Because I think for me it's a good investment. It would be a double benefit for that particular university or institution to have to have a to have a to have a contract with a student that when he or she is done with the program, he or she will be back. Because that is one way. See, you value diversity. Philippine universities would become, I believe, would become better, would become enriched, would become more relevant and substantial if we would also diversify, you know, the people that we hire. So if somebody like you is willing to pursue graduate studies abroad and you were able to get a scholarship, I would, if I'm one of the management people in the academy, I would hold on to you and give you a contract and bind you to come back to the university, because we need you to grow the university. So what's your story? Because I have a different story. That's why I'm so committed, even through ups and downs in the university. I'm so committed because at the core of my commitment is, you know, to serve the students the best I can, to contribute the best I can. So what's your story?
It's actually a sensitive topic.
Oh.
In my yes, in the university where I came from, because there is a change in management, like the administration. I heard there are other instructors who left for school and they still got the opportunity for study leave. So they still get paid while doing masters. But in my case, because I don't have a permanent contract, so I have to choose whether staying for the job or going for masters. And I also know some instructors that don't have a permanent contract but still get a chance for a study leave. So I'm not really sure what's going in between. Is it the prerogative of the administration, or is it? I'm not really sure about that. And so so in my side, I was just like, no, I will not hold this job for so long because I need to grow. I need to develop professionally because I can't go somewhere if I will stay here. And this is the perfect time. This is I would really set my mind that this is really the last semester for me. So at that point, I talked to the bosses like, I will not going to renew my contract anymore. So what do you do? It's like, okay, I will pursue my master's with just my stipend. And because I actually get a scholarship, but thankfully for the university, hi! Thankfully for the university, I get the support. Like they give me recommendations, they give me the papers that I need, but not on the side of the study leave. And they somehow kind of expect me to come back to the university. And
Go back to CMU, not MSU.
I'm not really sure. It's not done yet. Yeah, because I could really understand you, Ma'am Joy, that when you say you have the sentiment like why you have to quit your job wherein they can just give you the study leave, but that doesn't happen to all in my university.
Okay, it's okay. There's politics, but
Yeah,
maybe it's also good for you. Although I'm thinking from the perspective of somebody who's looking forward for what the university could be, what an academe could be, and that is investment in young people who have that kind of mindset like both of you have. But well, we cannot play politics.
yeah, it really is politics.
But I think just like anything, I'm sure that there's a purpose for your own direction, for your own journey. I'm sure that just listening to you for more than an hour, I think you are a very grounded young person. And I really hope that our country, because I'm so sorry masyadong makabayan. I really hope for both of you. I'm sure you have the right to pursue other dreams, but I always hope that the country would be one of the major beneficiaries of your new knowledge, your new growth, especially because we really need a lot of young people like you for us to build more, to build a stronger Philippines. Nation building, nation building talaga. Stronger bricks for the country, and some of the solid foundations need repair. And you can always pursue, you can of course do your PhD, but hopefully one day the country would be a major beneficiary, and our people would be the major beneficiary of your professional growth and your professional development. So, we're winding down. Meron pa ba akong dapat itanong, Sandy? Na ano? Wala lang. So, sige, balikan ko si Jollibee. And of course, Sandy can, even if he didn't have a proper teaching experience in a university in the Philippines, but he had been doing a lot of informal teaching for farmers and communities while he was with C-Rice. I know that. I was with him for about a week, being an observer of what he did in Vietnam. So my second to the last question for both of you is that with your experience in the University of Bonn, can you please share at least one that could be useful for me as a faculty? What could you suggest that I do for students come August, because it would still be online learning for us. Any suggestions po? Nag-iisip talaga si Jollibee. Actually, Sandy had a suggestion before. Sandy had a suggestion for me before. No, because sometimes he would message me randomly, and then he would say, "Ma'am, how about doing this and doing that for CMU?" So rather than me just benefiting from his sharing, it would be nice if a lot of people would be able to hear some of his ideas on how a faculty like me, how a professor like me could do things better for my students, especially that school year will start again next month, and especially with the difficulties still of online learning, and one of the major concerns would still be access to online learning. A number of students still don't have gadgets or access to the internet, things like that. or maybe that's not something you could really relate because that's not a problem, but what uh what learning strategies that you experience there from your professors that you consider to be good academic practices that can be adopted to Philippine universities like Central Mindanao University or Mindanao State University, and that could be beneficial for me as a professor?
Yeah, that's a hard question
Yeah.
because we are dealing with a very different environment, especially when it comes to internet and electricity.
Oh, okay.
Because
You
remember when,
Sorry,
because
Sandy.
because when I was doing the R thing with your students, I think I have like 2 or 3 people from out of 10 or something because they don't have internet or electricity. But I think what I can recommend is always record your classes so that anybody can who don't have access at that time can always come back to it when they already have access and maybe upload it in a cloud, maybe on YouTube or just maybe a cloud or something. And then what I like about here in Bonn is students are not, at least for the master students, are not tortured with a lot of exams and requirements. So
True.
at the end of the semester, we are only required to do a report or a written report, depends on the module. And that is the basis of our grade already.
And do you think that's substantial enough? That's substantial enough.
It also depends on the context, depends on the student also. There's like a lot of factors, but I cannot say for everybody in my class if it's working or not. But for me, it's a little bit working, but not really that working. But for me, because I don't have to deal with exams all the time, at least at the end of semester, I know that I can, because most of the time the professor at the start of the semester will give us the topic already to prepare to report at the end of the semester. So at least I have more than enough time and I don't have an excuse why I cannot prepare something like this. And sometimes this presentation also, if you want to understand more about the paper, you have to listen to this lecture because this portion of the paper will be discussed on this topic. So if you want to learn more, you have to ask questions or something like that. So that at the end of the semester, when you're doing your presentation and when the professor asks you a question, you're already equipped with the ammunitions because you listen to the lecture and you understand these concepts already. So because sometimes they gave us the paper that is applied and then they talk about theory. So when they ask questions, they will target why they're doing this and not this. So it's on the theory part. So it depends on also how the lecturer will arrange this class or this kind of arrangement.
All right, thank you for that. I have a question in the back of my brain, but I'll silent that for now because I'm interested to listen to Jollibee. So how about you, Jollibee? Because you have been an instructor, so maybe you don't have to focus on the internet, the online thing, but what are the, like, kung sa agriculture pa there are good agricultural practices, what are some of the best or good academic practices in the University of Bonn, aside from what Sandy had mentioned for him, doing that sort of a little bit less exams, but more of substance really of learning? What can you suggest to me that we could do in the Philippines so that learning would be more substantial? Because I always believe in substance of learning. Sandy would always hear this from me. Do not just be content with the icing on the cake. Make sure that you dig into the cake. And so is there anything that you could suggest to me in order for students to, really go dig the cake when it comes to learning and knowledge?
Yes. Here, since we have modules that would really just send us articles, so I would suggest. Yeah, I know that you've been also doing article reviews, and it is really nice because I have an experience on that. Like I was sent by my professor with one article, but that article is really too deep for me. So the tendency for the student is he or she will look for another resources. So that is some kind of opportunity to learn more or to dig deep. And another, yes, recording here for based on experience, record your lecture is really the one of the best that I can recommend. And also giving them to do works or assignment and then giving them deadlines
Well,
because
there's a
that
lot
is
of
also,
that.
yeah, that is also what for me. Because I'm kind of work with deadlines, so it's deadlines is one of the best motivation for me. So yeah, giving them to do works and then they can base it with their records, and that is also, it would also open another door of which if it's not, if they're not if they're looking for something that's not in the lecture, they can ask whoever they want and they can look for the internet if they have the resources for that. And yeah, I guess that's what I can recommend.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
can I add
Those,
more?
yes, please,
One
Sandy.
just because for example, in our statistics and for my bioinformatics course, the professor also assigned us tutors, especially the tutors are usually graduate students. For us, it's the PhD, his PhD students. So it's not him all the time talking, but sometimes his PhD students do the talking. And then at the end of the day, if the students have questions, so we can just email our tutor or arrange a meeting with the tutor so we can discuss more, especially if they're assigning us assignments and they want us to learn more how this answered. So they just assign tutors to us
Who,
to
who
explain.
pays for the tutors? Because I think they're also paid. Who pays for the tutors?
I think it's part of their PhD contract
Okay.
to be a
Okay.
tutor.
And
Yeah,
maybe they
Yeah.
are a student assistant.
yeah,
Mhm.
student
And
assistants.
also one thing is, for example, not all students can ask question during the lecture time.
Hmm.
So it would be also nice to like set a consultation hour, because there are some students that can create question after the lecture or after watching the video. So yeah, I can suggest the consultation hours.
Yeah. For that, we all, at least for me personally, the Google Classroom, because we use the Google Classroom, anytime the students could always post their comment or query or clarification, and then that has to be addressed. And if not, then they can always send an email for now, at least for the online learning. With the old system of classroom or classes, consultation hours are always a month. Although some students
Anyway,
don't always know about consultation hours. He needs attention now because he had been sleeping for more than 4 hours already. Anyway, okay. Thank you for those suggestions. Yeah. The deadlines. I'm a stickler for deadlines. Basically, deadlines would be a mark of discipline, training for discipline. Although the system here in the Philippines is to be as lenient as possible, because again, there are a lot of factors with students needing access for the internet, and again, the concern on walang kuryente, walang pang-load. I know of a student who had to help her mom prepare kakanin in the morning, and then make sure that she sells something by 8 o'clock, so that by 8 o'clock she could have at least some money for load. For load, ha? Alam niyo yan. Yeah, and then she could access her classrooms, her classes. So may mga ganyang stories. That's why, well, these are not sad stories because students are finding ways. We're also building the resilience. I think I'm just sharing the story so that people would appreciate, our blessings more. So for those kind of students, they are learning more about resilience and finding ways and being resourceful in order to address their concerns, personal concerns, and that's just money matters. Kahit pang load lang na 100 pesos. But anyway, sige, it's been a long discussion. I hope we can have a longer time, but I know that you have other things to do. So my last question for you is, what is your encouragement for what's your encouragement for Filipino students? And I have a weird request. Can you please speak a little bit of that in German before you translate that in English or Bisaya or Filipino? Prove to me. Prove to me na meron kayong konting
I
alam na
only have
German.
eins.
Nako, alam ko yung Danke ha, tsaka Guten Tag ha, tsaka...
That is
yeah.
B1 level, Ma'am Joy.
Ha?
That is
Grade
B1
one?
level
Yeah,
already.
B1.
B1. Understanding and sentence.
If ever
Yeah,
I visit,
sentence.
if ever I visit you, I need to learn a little bit of German. But anyway.
Yanai.
Yeah, yes. Okay, so your some encouraging words for Filipino students here in the Philippines, and yeah, anything. It doesn't have to be encouraging, or anong pwede nyong masabi na ayoko na masabing last words, parang last words. Huwag naman ganon. Yeah. Your final statements, please. Although I really wish we could talk a little bit longer, but maybe we could have a second round. Pero ano yung pwedeng masabi nyo before we say bye, and I can really thank you sincerely for sharing things with me.
Jollibee, ikaw na.
How can I encourage
Yeah.
For the students, or maybe not a student, any Filipino who wants to pursue not master's grad or anything, it might be here in abroad or just in the Philippines, is like when you want to do something, do it 100% in your end. And if there are things that you can't control, let them. And then if, for example, you get rejection, it's okay. You can try again, and you can look more, or you can apply more, you can send entries more. So you just have to try. You don't lose anything. And if in your end, if you get accepted, so you will gain something. And also, yeah, just keep trying and dream big. It's too cliche, but you have to dream big. This is, I would also tell my student before, if you're going to dream big, just dream really high. So for example, if you want to not aim for a good grade, you can aim for 1. Because if you can gain 1 grade, you still have 1.5. You still have 1.25. There are lots of stairs of which you can take. Not like if you're going to aim for 3, if you can't get 3, then you will be 5. So that really works also for me. And yeah, I guess that's some encouragement for my part.
Thank you very much, Jollibee. I affirm what you said, because those really resonate. So thank you. So Sandy, anong masasabi mo?
I'm not really good at this encouragement messages or something like that. You know me.
Well, just your truth.
Yeah, I mean, just do whatever you want. Don't let just don't be intimidated by people. Especially if, like, when you're planning to apply for a program abroad, don't be intimidated that it's only for the best students, it's only for the cum laude, it's only for the summa cum laude, it's only for the whatever bookworm you have in your classroom. Just apply. There's no harm in applying. If you're rejected, then apply for another one. There's always next time. But don't get too fast for the age limit, because sometimes there are age limits. And then I think one of the best thing that I did is expand your network. Not only the network you already know, but if you read a paper, email the author and ask questions, whether if you can find the answer to the paper, or if you read the paper and you can't really understand a part of that paper, you can always email the corresponding author, so you can get more, and at the same time you will get connected to that person, and corresponding to one author is also one opportunity for you to get a graduate program, to be accepted in a
Right.
graduate program. Yeah, that's it.
Where did you learn that first? Where did you learn that first about emailing authors with papers?
I think it's from you, and then sometimes like I don't
Yeah,
really
you learn
remember,
it
but
from methods of research. That's a requirement for
yeah,
the methods of research. Yeah.
but
But
I
anyway,
remember, yeah, because sometimes, because when I want to download the paper, sometimes it's not for free. I just email the author, and then they will just give me free copy of the paper. That's it.
right. It's very true. I think with what you said, I think a lot of gems can be gleaned from what you said. So very practical things, whereas Jollibee was, really about something, should we say rhetorical? I don't call it rhetorical because I also believe that that's your truth. Um, so it's a good balance of practical suggestions from Sandy and more of the principles from Jollibee. So
Can I add
Jollibee.
one more?
Yes, please.
Good academic
Yes,
practice
please.
in the institution wide, CMU wide, not only for you, but I think
Right.
CMU should make the university email a regular thing
Yeah.
already, and make connections with the journals so students can have institutional
Yeah.
access to
Access to the
articles,
scientific journals.
at least in the library. So if they're really aiming
Oh,
for CMU to be a research forward university, something like
right. Right. I think it's heading that way. All students now have institutional email ads. Yeah, so lahat ng estudyante ngayon is at cmu.edu.ph. Kaya yun ba yun yung isang sinabi mo? Sorry because I sort of missed a little bit of what you said earlier. But I hope that's the direction that we're taking, not only for CMU, but especially for one very huge university,
Yeah, I
no?
think we have it already in Naawan. Yeah, I
Mm-mm.
heard it.
Mm-mm.
Maybe.
Right. Yeah, I think that's why I people complain about the pandemic. Of course, it's natural because it disrupted our usual way of doing things. But just like what I've been sort of asking from both of you, there are many gems that we could. There are many takeaways. The pandemic paved the way for us to rethink how things can be done and how things, especially learning in academies, can be done better. So I think there would be a lot of opportunities available for us, and hoping that yeah always hoping that Philippine universities would get better and better and would gain international traction, because and one of the things I always believe is to invest in young people like you. Hopefully when you are done with your programs, whether you continue with your PhD there or go to another country for your PhD, still after you're done with those things, please come home. We need you here. And yeah,
Mhm.
for you to
And
contribute
they
on.
should give professors time for research, not only for admin and
Yes,
lecture work.
because yeah, from university, it's just like you have an instruction load, you have a research load, you have an extension load, and it's kind of juggling your time, and then you don't know where to focus. So I guess that's one thing.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think some of the policies are getting better. I can speak for CMU that research now will have a unit load. So, for example, if the minimum unit load requirement or workload requirement would be 18 units per semester, and if a professor would have two projects, then he or she could have the unit load for those research projects and then less for the academic projects. I think hopefully things are getting better. And yeah, we're aiming to, ano nga bang aim? The highest form of universities would be to become a research university. So is
Uh,
is is the University of Bonn a research university?
I
Mhm.
think so. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a
All
research
right.
university.
Yeah.
I
Good. That's
think it is the only university in Germany that has an excellence on mathematics and science,
all
if I
right.
can remember it right.
That's
I'm
good.
not sure.
Ang dami kong natutunan sa inyo. Thank you so much for what you shared today.
Thank
And
you.
I wish you well, both of you, in your research, and finish up your MS, because there are a lot of opportunities for you to pursue your PhD. And all the
Yeah.
best. Stay healthy, and hope to see you both. Both. If I could
Hopefully
travel,
one day
Philippines. In
I can eat
Philippines.
Jollibee for real. I want to
I
eat
really
Chicken
want to
Joy.
visit. I really want to visit Germany. So I've been telling Sandy I want to visit you if it's
Yeah,
allowed to.
before.
If
If
we're
You
I'm
can
still
allowed to.
come
here.
now. Actually, you can
Yeah,
come
actually you
now.
can.
In my defense.
When is I cannot. I'm not vaccinated yet. You have been vaccinated. I cannot. Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess it's fine.
No, it's
They
not
have to
required. It's fine
quarantine. It's not
here.
required.
It's for my safety.
Yeah.
I'm.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So
Alright.
Sandy,
Get
i-prolong mo muna.
Get
I-prolong mo
vaccinated
muna.
and come here.
Right. I-prolong mo muna ang thesis mo. Kaya baka by the time you're ready to defend, then I would be, it will also be the
Vaccinated.
proper time for me.
No, sure, we can prolong our research, but we can prolong our scholarship.
True. Okay, but all the best to both of you, and thank you so much.
Thank
So,
you too.
bye, Sandy
Bye-bye.
and Jollibee. I'm so happy to meet you and to talk to you.
Danke.
Bye.
Dankeschön. Bye.
Say
Bis bald.
danke too. Danke
Danke.
too.
Dankeschön.
Bitte
Danke.
schön.
Okay,
Bitteschön.
whatever.
Or vielen Dank.
Welcome.
There's like a lot of ways. Danke,
Salamat
Dankeschön,
tayo, vielen Dank.
vielen Dank,
Ich,
bitteschön.
ich danke dir.
If you say
Okay.
see you, it's bis bald.
Bis bald. Or
This
bislang. Or auf
See you
Wiedersehen.
later.
For formal.
Oh, I should have researched for a few German phrases before I Anyway, all right. See you sometime
See you.
sooner. Bye-bye, both.
Bye. Ciao.
Ciao, arigato gozaimasu.